Welcome into No Pun Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. Week 1 is officially down, and I see Josh and Ryan already laughing because Ryan makes a funny...
Go live every single time.
moment he sees the live button go off. But Week 1 officially down. Week 1 officially the worst week of fantasy football because you never know what's going to happen. Joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weiss, and for the first time on No Punt Intended, but no stranger to fantasy football himself, Troy King from the Dynasty Happy Hour. Troy, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic, Joe. And I want to say again, thank you guys so much for inviting me and having me on the show.
Hell yeah, man.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
Glad to
and
have you.
I do want to point out this first comment we have because everyone seems to comment on these the moment they come on. Troy said, Joe, I love the pink headphones, and apparently Toronto FF8 agrees. Guys, I don't know, like, these are like $60. I didn't spend like $500 on them. Go get them yourself.
But I think it's because they're pink. That's what
It's
it is.
true.
I don't even think it's the headphones. It's just because they're pink.
I mean, look, I'm not paid by Razer at all, but these are Razer
We
headphones.
need to change that.
But if they would
We
like
need to
to
get
pay,
this over to Razor like ASAP.
Check though, Razer did get breached. So if you bought from Razer, beware, your account may have gotten hacked. Just throwing that.
And there goes that sponsorship.
Yes,
Yep.
there goes that sponsorship.
Good job, Joe. Good job.
Thank you. A new little format. It's going to be roughly the same as last week, but we're adding in our 3-up, 3-down. We're only going to highlight one guy. We're going to go through each of our 3-ups and 3-downs, but talk about one guy. And then, of course, starting with our quick news and quick thoughts. So first thing, Browns tight end David Njoku, who had a had a touchdown in week 1, placed on IR with an MCL sprain. Likelihood is it's only 3 weeks, not season ending. I mean, it's good news for Austin Hooper in the meantime, right?
Also good news if you stashed Harrison Bryant in your Dynasty leagues.
Very true, yes. Saints Michael Thomas coming off a poor week 1. Talk about a big surprise in week 1 against one of the, I think, the worst secondary in the NFL last year in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hey, don't take that away from my Eagles. What's the matter with you?
So Eagles are really.
I mean, no, it was the graphic popped up during the game. The Bucs had the number 1 rushing defense and the number 32 passing defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't call that the worst
Crazy.
secondary as much as they just allowed the most passing yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, I mean,
Carlton
Yeah.
Davis looks like he's coming into his own as a
He
top
does.
upper echelon corner. So
Davis
good
looked
on the
good.
Bucks there.
Yeah. He'll likely miss 3 weeks. Michael Thomas will. Le'Veon Bell also placed on IR, which means more of Frank Gore, baby. Let's go.
Revenge game this week against the Niners.
Revenge
he has so
game.
many revenge games.
Yeah, all the revenge games.
Broncos running back Philip Lindsay went down with the turf toe. He's considered week to week.
This was not a good week for Linda. Like, at all.
Terrible week for
Awful
Linda.
week for her. Linda, I've poured one out for you all week.
Oh,
The jinx.
speaking of Linda, Cowboys tight end Blake Jarwin down, out for the season with an ACL injury. I lost by 1.5 points, and I had Blake Jarwin starting.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
One catch and then he goes down. That was just, I own him.
Awful.
Terrible.
So many teams.
I mean,
Me
it's not
too.
even Blake Jarwin let me down. How about the entire Dallas Cowboys offense? Just
How about that
Hey,
game
Mark
in
Cooper
general?
showed up. I
Zeke
could
ate.
not believe that.
Zeke did his thing.
Oh,
Zeke
I'm
always
sorry.
does his thing.
It was tough to watch that game. And Marlon Mack placed on IR, opening up the running lanes here for Jonathan Taylor and
Pulling
one
out
guy
Marlon
who I will highlight and was my sleeper in the Colts preview, if you read those in the offseason, wink, wink, who I have pegged for at least 90 receptions, who is well on his way to doing that. We'll talk about that in a second. But starting with our 3-up, 3-down, I will read all the names to start off, and then we'll highlight the one guy that we want to talk about. So, Troy, you have Aaron Rodgers, J.K. Dobbins, who scored twice in his rookie debut, and Cam Newton. Ryan, you have Gardner Minshew, and Gardner Minshew. But in reality,
Okay.
number 2, Malcolm Brown, and number 3 was Paris Campbell. Josh, you have Russell Wilson, who lit the world on fire. Robbie Anderson and Dallas Goedert. Myself,
Not going to say that I didn't call the Dallas Goddard thing, but I called the Dallas Goddard thing. So.
not going to say I called the Naheem Hines thing, but Naheem Hines.
I called the James thing.
No, that's
But
fair. Troy and I both called it. Kyler Murray and then Josh Jacobs.
Remember, Troy, we come on 2 hours before you guys.
Yes.
You're right. You're right.
So we call it 2 hours before you. Then you can call it. But speaking of Troy, so you said beforehand, Cam Newton is your guy. He went up against your Dolphins this week. How did you feel about him with a little highlight package to go along with it?
I feel so conflicted because I am a huge Cam Newton guy, but watching this game, obviously, I wanted him to get a bunch of stats, but I wanted him to lose. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And I'm watching these plays, and good God. Oh, no, I remember this. And I'm like, oh, you already knew he was going to score a touchdown here. Like, but he rushed. It's crazy part. He rushed 15 times for 75 yards. He barely passed the ball. So you know what? But that's the benefit of Cam. He was going so late in drafts. Again, he was going behind guys like freaking Baker Mayfield. Like that bothered me so much.
Garbage this week.
Terrible.
Exactly. I'm like, Cam Newton is a steal, guys. Again, you don't get that many rushing quarterbacks that late of Cam's caliber. He was a steal. I was grabbing him everywhere. Super flex, your 1 QB. So I was very, very happy to see that. Just not against my team I wasn't happy about, but I was so happy to see him do his thing. And he's going to just continue to do this all season.
Hopefully he gets more comfortable in the passing game because, and again, I don't know how much of that really because I didn't watch too much of the game, unfortunately, because my Eagles were on at the same time. But just like looking at the stats and some of the highlights and everything, I don't know if there's just some little out of sync with some of the pass catchers or if Howard and Jones just kind of locked everybody down. Because I know Jacoby Myers, Demir Byrd, like they didn't catch anything.
But then
the
also Jacoby Myers and Demir Byrd. Like, let's not.
No, and I get that. But even N'Keal Harry didn't really light the world on fire. Edelman only had 5 catches. James White was essentially non-existent all game.
Yeah.
So I'll speak to that as someone who had it on his second TV while watching the Red Zone. The offense was designed like 75% run the football. It was a very non-existent pass game, and when it was a pass, it was get the ball out of Newton's hands as fast as possible. There were a couple times where he sat in the pocket and he went through his reads and he looked good. There was that strike to Ryan Izzo in that package right there, which was the longest play of the game. A couple strikes to Edelman, and then N'Keal did not have a good game at all. Fumbled out of the end zone. Yeah. Guy was 6'2", looked like he got stopped in his tracks by a 5'11" safety. N'Keal didn't have a good game. Myers and Demir Byrd, I didn't even see him on the field. Demir Byrd was the punt returner.
Oh, they were on the field. That I do know.
Okay, I didn't see him on the field at all. But no, it looked like that offense looked straight out of like Cam Newton college playbook. Like it was run Cam hard. And I think what's going to happen is the first 3 weeks, you'll see Cam get more carries. And when Damian Harris comes off IR, that's when I think you see Damian Harris get moved more into the running game. I don't think they trust Sony Michel as much. So there's my thoughts on Cam Newton. And from one quarterback to another, just to move along here, Ryan, everyone's favorite, your and I's favorite, Captain America, Gardner Minshew.
What a game. One incompletion the entire game. 3 touchdowns, spreading them out to wide receivers. I think everyone wanted a bigger game out of DJ Chark, especially when he scored early. But they only threw 20 passes. Obviously, that's a little bit of a concern. But one thing I talked about early on in the offseason was he is a sneaky runner as well. He ran the ball 5 times for 19 yards. If he does that this season, that's 320 rushing yards on the season. There was an article a while back for the Fantasy Footballers, I think Matthew Betts wrote it, that a quarterback who finishes with more than 250 rushing yards is almost a lock to finish as a QB1. It's something that really shoots them up the ranks. I've been calling it for a while now. I obviously drafted him as the first round pick in our draft, but I think Minshew is going to be
Ryan.
But he finished the first week as the QB 11, and I don't see him falling out of the QB1 ranks this season. They're going to get more comfortable passing the ball. D.D. Westbrook was a healthy scratch, which is pretty incredible to me because I really thought he was going to be something. But if he's not something, if he has to die so LaVisca Chenault can live, I am all for it. So
Cole,
Keelan Cole showed out too.
Yeah, but LaVisca Chenault, like for a rookie, looked pretty good in his opening debut.
If you want to check out some interesting information on LaVisca, check out our buddy Angelo's thread that he just put out on LaVisca at Angelo _fantasy. absolute fire takes, and you can literally see the defense just splitting hairs and letting everybody go through because they're paying attention to Shenault. That's how much athleticism this guy brings to that offense and how much he can change what they do for the Jaguars.
He's a touchdown scorer. It's what we've said all along, and he's already proven it on minimal touches. I think it was 6 total touches or something. So I think we're going to see him grow in that offense, and he's going to be so good as long as he can stay healthy. That was the knock coming on him coming out of college. And I mean, as of right now, fingers crossed, he looks like he could be something as a rookie.
From one guy who couldn't throw an incompletion to another guy that also seemed to just not throw an incompletion himself, Josh Russell Wilson.
Let Russ cook.
Yeah.
It is that simple. They let the man cook. And what really shocked me was the 2 touchdown passes to Chris Carson. Joe, you talked about him as one of your downside guys because, the fumble problems, etc. If he's going to be this involved in the passing game,
sign me up.
That floor is so much higher now. I'm like, the thing with Russell, he's going to be efficient and he's going to throw. And this Falcon secondary is young on the outside. They're inexperienced, even all over the field. They sold out to stop the run, and they absolutely took Carson out of the game from running the football. Russ said, "You know what? That's okay. I'll just throw it to him."
And it's the fact where it wasn't even like it was checkdowns to Chris Carson. They were designed plays where the running back was the first option on that screen pass, and then potentially the first or second option on that goal line play where it's just dink and dunk and Carson's wide open, he walks in. So, I mean, at that point, Greg Olsen scored a touchdown. When's the last time you've seen a tight end get involved in a Seahawks offense? So it's like...
Will Dissly had some big games early in the last couple of seasons, but he keeps getting hurt. That's the problem.
That's the thing, is once Will Dissly goes down, the tight ends go to crap.
Well, that's one thing I was going to add is... The Falcons have always had trouble covering running backs out of the backfield and passing plays. Not that you need incentive, but Ezekiel Elliott is going to eat this week, and Tony Pollard's a sneaky one to score a touchdown as well. So,
yeah, Zeke should have an absolutely monster week, and that's at home too. And there's going to be fans in Cowboy Stadium, so yeah, that's going to be a big game for Zeke. And then to my guy Nyheim Hines, I've been calling it since the offseason.
Let's go.
I didn't think he'd be running the football this much. That's the part that kind of shocked me, right? Like that run we just saw there.
How much do you think had to, I know he was involved early, but how much do you think him actually running was a result of the Mac injury and more of a necessity at that point?
Well, he was doing it before Mac was hurt.
Yeah,
I know he was involved. I just wasn't, because again, the Eagles were on, so I was kind of like my head was on a swivel. But I don't know how much of those runs came after Mac's injury.
He had 9 first half touches, 6 second half touches.
Okay.
I mean, he was way more involved than I expected him to be in terms of just where he was lining up. Like, he lined up in the backfield way more than I expected. I expected him to be spread out wide or lined up in the slot opposite Paris Campbell or something like that. No, that offense threw me for a loop. The only thing that was constant is Phillip Rivers is still bad, and that is still constant.
If you need reason to continue to believe in Nyheim Hines, Phillip Rivers threw to his running backs in week 1 36.9% of his targets. Yep. That is absurd.
And he was at over 31 in Los Angeles last year. Yeah. So it's going to stay consistent. And there's a lot of people. There was a big debate yesterday on how much fab you should spend on Hines. And I was pushing 35 to 40%. That's what I mean. In a full PPR, I don't see his role going anywhere. Jonathan Taylor is going to eat. I'm right behind John on the Jonathan Taylor train, but Hines isn't going anywhere with Matt gone now. He's going to have a solidified RB2 to RB3 role weekly in this offense.
If you're in a league with me, sorry, you're not spending any fab money on Nyheim Hines because I already drafted him.
Exactly. That's what
I was going to say. I stashed him in every freaking Dynasty league that I have.
I did the same thing. In redraft, though, I kept getting outbidded. I have him in a bunch of Dynasty leagues, but in redraft, I thought I loved him, but people are spending their life savings to get Hines, and I'm like, I just can't get there. I love the dude, but you're going to have to go to another home because I can't get you with that for that much.
No, I mean, if you feel
wish you well.
If you feel confident in your running backs, there's no need to overpay for
Right.
Naheem Hines. But I mean, if you had Marlon Mack, light it up.
Oh, yeah,
Light
of
it up. But all
I
right,
think I had
Matt,
Hines in like 5 leagues, and all 5 of them he was on my bench.
I didn't start Hines in any of my leagues.
Me
So
neither.
I played him twice, and it worked out very well for
nice, nice.
The sad part is I wanted to start him. I just couldn't find somebody to bench for him. So.
All right, quickly to the downs, and I'm just going to highlight one guy from each list and absolutely roast them because that's essentially my job around here. 3 down, Troy. You got Christian Kirk, Mark Ingram, and Baker Mayfield, and the easy target, my friend, is Baker Mayfield. Wow.
God,
Cleveland
so
going to
bad.
be Cleveland. Is that all we need to say about this? Troy, you want to add something to it?
Yes. Okay. So I was hopeful for Baker his rookie year when, Tyrod got hurt and he came in, he actually looked good. Last year, everyone wants to blame it on the offensive line and Freddie Kitchens, which is reasonable. I get it. Both of those elements were terrible. And I guess we can contribute a little bit to Baltimore's defense, but at the same time, he didn't look good. His decision-making didn't look good. He targeted Odell. I believe Odell had 10 targets, if I'm not mistaken. And they were just he maybe caught like 4 passes. I don't have the stat line, but
10 targets, 3 catches.
3 catches. There we go. So again, like he just doesn't look good. And they've helped that offensive line in the draft. Like they helped Baker. And they have Kareem Hunt. But the problem is they got down early. So then they had to rely on Baker. And I feel like the offense is designed for Chubb and Hunt to run the ball and for Baker to be a game manager. When Baker has to take over and actually, put the team on his back, he looks horrible. He's shown it. I'm not a Baker truther. And a lot of people I know when I talk to in the space, some people believe in him. I just don't see it, man. I'm rooting for the guy, but he's been so disappointed.
Look at the offense Stefanski just came from. Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. You tell me that Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham Jr., and Jarvis Landry aren't the exact same 4 people, just worse. Minus Dalvin Cook's better than Nick Chubb. When
Not
healthy.
by much.
Not by much, but when healthy, Dalvin Cook is better.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at it, like you said, Troy, Baker Mayfield's supposed to be the game manager. Kirk Cousins is a really good game manager, but if you tell Kirk, hey, go out and win us a game, it's rarely going to happen. I think
He
Cousins
can sling it, and he's still going to have a good, completion percentage because that's what he does. I mean, the last 2 years, 69%, 70% completion. But he's not going to go out there and throw for 4,700 yards and 40 touchdowns. Like that's not his game.
Yeah, that's not Kirk Cousins, and I think it's the same thing there. And Cleveland has to play in a close game in order for them to actually.
It doesn't help that their defense is just dismantled
abysmal
right now with injuries.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ryan, moving to you.
4 of their offensive line were questionable this week, too.
I love that.
Oh boy.
Sam Hubbard and IDP, line them up. Ryan, your guys, Austin Eckler, Jared Goff, and Jonathan Taylor, and I feel like the one guy is Austin Eckler because I think that surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, my notes literally start with 1 damn target.
Like what?
How does this happen? We were expecting.
You gotta love the 19 carries though.
Yeah, well, and that's in here. He ran 19 carries for 84 yards, which is great. I don't even want to call it great. It's decent, but touchdowns and catching the ball is where he made his ADP. And if that doesn't happen, he's going to be a bust. Yeah. We all expected regression, but 1 target is basically blasphemy. You have to think did he upset Tyrod Taylor before the game? Like what happened there? Because that shouldn't have happened. He's your second best wide receiver behind Keenan Allen, without a doubt. And I understand Mike Williams looked really good.
He
for a
looked
guy who
ridiculous.
wasn't supposed to play the game. But 1 target, I don't understand how your offense can change so drastically. And obviously we saw Rivers must have taken all the RB targets with him to Indy. I mean, I don't know what happened, but
just tells me that Justin Herbert's going to be starting sooner than a lot of people
Yes.
think.
And
if you're not getting your best playmaker involved or one of your best playmakers involved, that's a problem.
Can I just add in? I said Justin Herbert's going to take over in week 4, so I'm not in.
I think I said
many
5.
people. I
Well, but
said
here's the
4.
thing. So I actually heard, I forgot who mentioned this on Twitter, but people kept saying if Tyrod looked that bad, right, in week 1, how bad does Justin Herbert look right now if he
To
could
have won the job.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Somebody pointed out on Twitter, I don't know who, but I thought about that. You know what? Ugh. And I saw Hard Knocks. He's still learning. He's still developing. So maybe later in the season he'll take over the job. But there's a reason why he's not starting week 1. So.
And they even made it a point on Hard Knocks to show that rough camp that he was having towards the end there. So I
well,
felt
because
like
it draws the intrigue to a rookie, a first-round pick. So
Let the rookie struggle. You have nothing to lose by playing Justin Herbert. Tyrod Taylor is taking you nowhere. You either do the exact same thing you're going to do with Tyrod Taylor with Justin Herbert, or you're 10-6 and potentially a wild card team. Like
are the Browns a cautionary tale though? Because they followed this exact path and it looked really good for 1 year and really bad for 2. Whereas if you put him on the Mahomes path where he sits for 15 games behind a guy.
That's what I want the Dolphins to do with Tua. Just let him sit all year, get healthy, let Fitzpatrick do the thing. That team is not built to win this year. There's
I want to judge Josh's point real quick. So I was on that train. I know we're going off on a tangent, but I was on that train for a little bit during the offseason. But now that I think that, all the reports of Tua's healthy and he's ready to go, I think that, he should get some experience. Maybe not, it didn't have to be week 1, but I think by midway or towards the later end of the season, I don't see why Tua can't get some experience in the game. But sorry to get off on the tangent.
Give the offensive line time to gel first. That's the biggest thing.
Well,
you
100%.
have to protect that asset.
Right.
And there's a lot of new pieces there.
Josh, to your guys, Chris Thompson, Michael Gallup, and Deshaun Jackson.
Screw them all. They suck. They spoiled everything for me. Go move on, Joe.
Perfect, fantastic. That's easy. Because I'll address the entire Cowboys offense in 1 sec. Michael Thomas was my number 1. DeAndre Swift was my number 3. Man, you gotta catch that. You gotta catch that, rookie. Oh, that was that was.
Kalen Balazs.
I mean, no,
I know.
Kalen Balazs ducks away from the football. I mean, that could not have been put in a better spot for DeAndre Swift. Such a routine catch. I feel bad for him because it wasn't a terrible game overall for DeAndre Swift, but man, yeah, that's tough.
Real quick, can we just pour one out for Kerryon Johnson?
Oh yeah, Adrian Peterson
has
took
just
over his
came
job.
in and just taken over that job. Kerryon
1 week.
done, dude.
I love Adrian Peterson.
Kerryon's done.
91 yards, love it. He was like a top 5 rusher from the 1 o'clock windows. Absolutely love it.
How does he keep doing this?
Because he's like Frank Gore. They're
guy's
bionic.
He's the next Frank Gore.
He's a machine.
But they're the same age. How can he be the next
No,
Frank
Gore I think is a year older.
Yeah, Gore's a year older.
Okay,
So
again,
Adrian-
they have Frank the same age.
Adrian Peterson's a younger version of Frank Gore.
Exactly.
Not by much, but he's a younger version. And then my second down, who I really should have as my first, is Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore. Those aren't players, you say. Well, they coach the best offense in football, or so we thought. What the hell was the play calling? What the hell was the play calling? We're running the football on 2nd
McCarthy
and 10.
hasn't learned anything.
Okay, but listen, no, but McCarthy isn't calling the plays, which really gets to me. Kellen Moore is still calling the plays. A lot of people were saying that McCarthy was going to take over the play calling duties, but no, he said he gave it to Kellen Moore. He's going to stick with it. So my thought is Mike McCarthy's scheme really just that bad? Is it really that bad to the point where Kellen Moore is calling run plays on 2nd and 9? And he's not getting Dak Prescott out of the pocket, and he's calling 5-yard stops on a 3rd and 10. Everything I was watching was abysmal, and people are saying, oh, CeeDee Lamb should have gotten that first down there. No, he shouldn't have. The rub route was designed 2 yards downfield on a 4th and 3. That is all play calling.
And
that is all play calling.
And then how do you keep calling plays for the tight end after your tight end goes down?
Dalton Schultz dropped it
is not
twice.
throwing.
Right in his hands, dropped it twice. So it's, oh man, wow, that offense sucked. Zeke was great. Zeke was fantastic. There's no questions that offense can run the football. There's now 1,000 questions. Can that offense pass block for Dak Prescott? And yes, I understand Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the NFL. But
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this week facing him.
I was a little shocked to see Jalen Ramsey not shadowing Cooper. I really thought that was going to happen, but Ramsey stayed on his side and got a little bit of everybody. So,
and can we talk about that? Jalen Ramsey got beat a lot, and that pass interference was not a pass interference.
Great acting.
Jalen Ramsey was watching a little too much NBA bubble action and took a few tips from Marcus Smart and Kyle Lowry.
It worked.
Oh man, it did work, and that was a veteran move by him. But that was terrible. All right, moving into our upside downsides here. Just like we did last week, I will run through everyone's upside downside, and we'll highlight one position each, and I'll go through and pick some of the most intriguing ones. So here we go. Troy, you're highlighting your upside. Ryan Tannehill home against Jacksonville. Ronald Jones against the Panthers. Hollywood Brown against Houston, and O.J. Howard against Carolina. Hello, stepmom Lauren. Ryan, you were 3-1 last week for your upside. You have Phillip Rivers home against the Vikings. Malcolm Brown in Philadelphia. A.J. Green in Cleveland on Thursday night, and Jonnu Smith home against Jacksonville, who's also your top stream of the week, correct? A little spoiler. Yep. Josh, you were 2-2 last week for your upside. You have Jimmy Garoppolo in New York, Antonio Gibson in Arizona, Paris Campbell home against Minnesota, Jared Cook in Las Vegas against the Raiders to christen the new Raider Stadium. Myself, I was 2-2 with my Average Joe upsides last week. Mitchell Trubisky, it pains me to say, home against the Giants.
He actually looked like a decent quarterback.
Well,
fantasy quarterback.
In the beginning, he was garbage.
The beginning, he was terrible.
Terrible. Yeah.
Beginning, he was terrible. Derrick Henry, I mean, it's the Jaguars. I have him for 500 yards this week. Calvin Ridley in Dallas, and Hayden Hurst. I'll double down on the Falcons playmakers in Dallas as well. Let's start just at the quarterback position, and I feel like the most intriguing one is Phillip Rivers. So, Ryan, we'll go with your guy here because, I mean, I think Rivers had a decent fantasy week last week, but he still looks like Phillip Rivers from Los Angeles.
Yeah, it wasn't a beautiful week. He's still turning the ball over, which is going to be an issue, but the Vikings should help rectify that. The Vikings gave up the number 2 week to quarterbacks last week. So I just really think, and obviously that was Aaron Rodgers, but Rivers has the targets. It's going to be a blowout, and you're going to see a lot of running the ball, but we know there's no reason not to expect 3 first-half touchdowns. So I really think you could see T.Y. get in the end zone. I think you could see Jack Doyle get into the end zone, and then maybe Hines again, maybe Taylor again through the passing game, and maybe even Paris Campbell, who just was amazing coming out of that slot. So it's not so much that I love Rivers as much as that I hate the Vikings, because Rivers was, I'm looking it up right now, he was the QB 20. Yeah, I say 22 right here. So 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Obviously not the week you were hoping for. But it's going to get better. That offense is going to gel. They had to get used to Rivers, because coming from Jacoby Brissett to Phillip Rivers is a big change. So they have to get used to Rivers as much as Rivers has to get used to them. Paris Campbell's, like I said, he's a guy who, especially if he gets targeted as much as he did, his run after the play ability is so good from his days at Ohio State. He's going to score a touchdown sooner than later. Hilton, I don't know what to make of him yet with Rivers. I don't know that if he's not going to be playing in the slot, if it's going to be Campbell's job exclusively. Hilton's going to have some good weeks and some bad weeks, a la Mike Williams last year. They even got the rookie Michael Pittman involved. But overall, I just feel like there's so many weapons there that the Vikings can't cover. And then with Daniil Hunter out, they're not going to get after Rivers. It should end up being a really good game for him.
That Minnesota Vikings defense is awful, absolutely terrible. And I heard someone on national TV, one of the national broadcasts, say Vikings one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. I'm like, okay, let's back it up.
Not anymore.
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago.
And the last time I checked, they're 82% rostered in fantasy football. Get them off of your roster. Stream every week. What are you doing? And I've been calling this out on the Vikings ever since 2017 when they had that great year, or 2016 when they had that great year on fantasy defense. People have been holding on to this name recognition, like this national announcer you're talking about in fantasy. Every season, I'm like, cut them. What are you doing? You're hurting yourself, because you have these I'm not even going to mince words. You have these idiots who just throw a defense into their starting defense spot and just leave them there. That is not how you win. That is not how you gain a positional advantage. Do better.
So,
Amen. Preach, brother.
So there's a question from YouTube, and I want to pose this to everybody because I don't understand the question. So we're gonna discover this together. Jake asks, how many warm hot dogs can I get from Mike Thomas at this point? Seriously, though, would you take Kenny Golladay? High ankle sprains are a bitch. That is true. I don't care about him. I assume him is Michael Thomas. He just fell to 9 in his draft, so I assume he's doing a late draft. I guess I'll pose this question, and Troy, we'll start with you. Mike Thomas or Kenny Golladay for the rest of 2020?
For the rest of 2020, I mean, also Kenny Golladay hurt, but I mean,
That's why, okay. As you said, please bring this up.
Kenny Golladay's also hurt, but Kenny G, we're assuming that he might be back this week. High ankle sprains, they're gonna linger for a while, so. But I need to know the rest of your team, to be honest with you. But if you're looking for like immediate production, let's say you're 0-1 and you really need a win, and I might do it, but I really don't know how long Michael Thomas is going to go out. You're downgrading, obviously, but you know what? If I'm desperate for a win, give me the guy who I think is actually going to play sooner rather than later. So I might do it. I think I would do it.
Ryan?
In no world am I making that trade. Michael Thomas is still probably wide receiver 5 for me rest of season, and he's probably now with Godwin in concussion protocol moving back up. If he misses 3 games, he misses 3 games. He's going to be there when you need him. I'm not worried about it.
Josh?
I mean, I'm not trading Michael Thomas. I mean, even with a high ankle sprain, he's one of the toughest sons of bitches in the league. So, I mean, he'll find a way to power through. Drew Brees is still going to pepper him with targets. I mean, if you really feel that desperate to move Michael Thomas, get more for him than just Kenny Golladay. Don't do a straight up trade.
Yeah, I'll also give Michael Thomas. To Troy's point, like if you're desperate for a win, I don't know if week 2 calls for desperation just yet. I mean, no, I mean you're bringing up both sides. I love that you bring up both sides because it's to the point where, I mean, if you're looking at your matchup this week and you see like, you know, you're not confident in some of your team's matchups this week, and you look on the other side and the guy you're playing is absolutely loaded with unbelievable matchups this week. I mean, there's a case to be made. It's not like Kenny
then get somebody that you know was going to play this
exactly,
week.
Not Kenny G. That's my thing. I see Troy's point.
I'm like, if he's going to play, then yeah, I would do Kenny G. But for me, I'm like, we don't know exactly how long Michael Thomas is going to be out. Well, hopefully, if it's because, you know, we're guessing. Like, if it's only going to be 3 weeks, then I wouldn't do the trade. If it's going to be like a 5-week, 6-week thing, and you need wins, and I'm like, you know what? If I'm 0 whatever by that time, I don't care if I have Michael Thomas. That's not going to help me. So I want a guy who's going to help me right now. But I understand everybody's point, though.
Yeah, and that's the greatest point is I loved every point Troy made except for the Kenny Golladay part of it. If you want to trade him for a lesser tier wide receiver to get some dubs, I get it. Try to get a second piece back, but don't do it for a guy who may not play.
That's fair. No, that's 100% fair. This is assuming that Kenny G is going to be back this week and he's going to be healthy.
So just to give you the rest of his team before we slide on, he has Juju Smith-Schuster and A.J. Brown. In the backfield, he has the tandem of Drake and Edwards. Edmonds, sorry. Yep, thank you. David Johnson, David Montgomery, and Kareem Hunt. So
don't make that trade.
Yeah, so I wouldn't make that trade either because he has pieces that like he can survive with Juju and A.J. Brown, so he doesn't need to worry about. Okay, so now that I know the whole picture, I agree. Hold Michael Thomas, don't trade him.
Yeah, there we go. And sticking with you, Troy, we'll jump to the tight end position. You like O.J. Howard this week after what he did in week 1.
So you want because I wanted to go with someone that wasn't obvious. You know, there's a lot of obvious matchups. So for me, and also Gronk, I've been saying this. He hasn't been a thing. He's not going to be a thing in terms of 2020. Like he's been a mirage, guys. Like the people who've been drafting Gronk.
Sorry, Nate. We tried to tell you last week. You didn't want to listen, buddy.
Exactly. I'm like, I saw his ADP, and I'm like, guys, like they've even talked about that. Like Gronk isn't going to be Gronk. And again, we saw him skinny. He gained a little bit of weight, but Bruce Arians' offense doesn't like tight ends anyway. But at the same time, we could read the tea leaves. We knew Gronk wasn't going to be a thing. O.J. Howard looked good. Yeah, he didn't get that much volume. He did score a touchdown, but to me, he's the tight end 1 on the Bucs. And also, Carolina's defense sucks. They're terrible.
Yes.
Awful. So if you're going to be streaming, why not grab a OJ Howard? Obviously, if you have other better choices, choose them. But I wanted to, dive a little bit deeper. He has a great matchup. I think the offense is going to bounce back. They didn't look great against the Saints, but again, the Saints defense is good. It's the first week. Tom Brady's still feeling out the team. But I think, you know what? If you're going to stream anybody, you want to stream them against Carolina. So that's the reason I chose him.
Especially if Godwin ends up missing the game.
Oh, and
Yeah,
that's concussion protocol. So another reason.
I saw a graphic on NFL Network today. The 3 times that Tom Brady has lost in week 1, he's went 3-0 the following week.
Wow.
And in 2 of those weeks, he was the QB1 in fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't know about
And this is a prime matchup for that against Carolina. I'm just saying.
So, Josh, I want to point out he probably had a decent offensive line. When he did that, his offensive line is non-existent.
Again, this plays to the narrative that, Carolina sucks. That defense is bad. So there's an opportunity for him to at least still be a top 12 quarterback this week. Maybe not the QB1, but it's a good bounce back game for him to keep those stats alive.
Sure. They have some young gunners on the outside that can pressure him at least. So I mean I'm not vouching for Carolina's defense whatsoever at this point, but they do have a good amount of firepower to at least come at Tom Brady. Go ahead, Ryan.
The one crazy stat that I found when I was looking into my snap counts this week was Gronk played 77% of the snaps, though, and he played the same amount of snaps as Dallas Goedert, Jack Doyle. I'm like, it's just really incredible to me how much he was out there and how little he did in that time.
So you have to remember, Gronkowski is essentially another offensive lineman in the run game.
Yeah.
So he's such a good blocking tight end, and that's something that gets lost in translation just because of fantasy football. So he's going to see a lot of time on the field. The issue is he's not going to see a lot of targets, and that's what you have to weigh out in this situation. And Ryan, we were talking Phillip Rivers beforehand, and Josh, you highlighted Paris Campbell as your upside. Looked really good after an injury-ridden rookie season. Ryan, you talked about it. He's shifty after the catch as well. Josh, I mean, we talked about Minnesota's defense as a shell of what they were. You like Paris Campbell again this week at home?
A lot. And that speed plays into it. Minnesota allowed the most deep targets last week with 10 and the most deep completions at 5. Campbell was the only Colts wide receiver that was targeted deep. Again, Rivers, he's throwing it. The accuracy issues, that's the big problem. But just looking at them, the Vikings defense covering out of the slot, Campbell ran out of the slot 94.9% of his snaps on the field. That is an extremely high number. And Minnesota allowed 8 targets to slot wide receivers, 8 catches, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Paris Campbell is going to absolutely demolish this defense.
Just going back, because I Jake over on YouTube is kind of making me laugh here a little bit, talking about Tom Brady. His 3 pick sixes in three straight games, dating back to last year, which is historic territory. If he has another one, he'll be tied for the most ever in league history. And he says he basically has the arm of Chad Pennington at this point. I'd like to bring up that Chad Pennington, before Drew Brees passed him, led the NFL in all-time completion percentage.
But according to you, Joe, that's a useless stat.
It is a complete... Josh, if Chad Pennington leads that, yes, it's a useless stat. Are you kidding me?
Hey, I liked him that one year with the Dolphins, man.
Listen, Chad Pennington had some great years, but let's be honest here. When people say, oh, Drew Brees completes 76% of his passes, yeah, because he looks downfield for 2 seconds, see Michael Thomas is triple covered and sees, oh, no one's near Alvin Kamara. Let me throw it 2 yards in the air and he'll catch it. Yeah, obviously his... I hate completion. Winning record as a quarterback, completion percentage, all BS. There's 22 players on the field and a head coach that needs to help you win a football game. My guy that I kind of say for last, because listen, if you've listened to the show the last 2 years, I have ripped on Derrick Henry. I didn't believe in him at all. The only time I believe in him is when he plays the Jacksonville Jaguars, because for some damn reason, that team just forgets how to play football when they play against Derrick Henry. I think 2 of the last 3 games Henry's played against them, he's gone over 100 yards. And obviously, he had that 99-yard touchdown and ridiculous game, I think 2 years back now at this point. I mean, we saw it last week. Marlon Mack was running well. Naheem Hines was running well. And those guys are puny compared to Derrick Henry. And Henry had, I mean, he did go over 100 yards, but it was on like 31
carries.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously going to be a workhorse in this game as well. And Jacksonville's defense is way worse than Denver's defense. So, I mean, Henry, if he gets another 31 carries, could easily see over 200 yards, and that is no exaggeration at that point. If they're going to feed him, all about it. Any thoughts on Derrick Henry? I mean, I know there's not much to say about this guy at this point.
It's about the most obvious upside pick you could have picked.
Yeah, but I'm picking him as an upside, as like he has to be the
RB1 for this to be a win for you.
Yes, like it is a smash out of the park.
It's gonna be. I think he's gonna be top 5 at least.
I just love that Troy was like, I picked OJ Howard because I didn't want to be obvious, and I remember Joe busting Josh's balls last week about being obvious, and then I'm like, Derrick Henry.
I went.
Dude, I'm like,
I'm picking
not
him.
Very obvious on a lot of my picks last week.
I don't remember what the one was that he was giving you a hard time on.
Joe gives me a hard time about everything. It's what he does.
No, I give him a hard time for downside. He picked Matt Breida as a downside. Okay.
Oh, was that what it was? Okay,
Good question.
I knew there was one.
Joe Burrow, downside. Yeah, obviously he's
That's
a
what
rookie.
it was. It was Joe Burrow. Yep, that was the one.
Oh, Chris Herndon, downside. Yeah, okay.
Considering where he was drafted, I stand by the
hasn't played football in a year. So it's like I preface this, Derrick Henry for over 200 yards. Like that is why I have him as my
Actually, your
upside.
notes say for 500
For
yards.
500 yards.
If he doesn't eclipse 500, you lose.
Listen, if he eclipses 500 yards, I'm the smartest human being on the face of this planet.
Yeah.
Because that is, I mean, that was
never been done.
Yeah, smash every record in the book.
I'm going against him this week, so I don't want him to do that.
Oh, that's no bueno. That is no bueno.
I thought you were going to say you were going against the 500-yard pick.
Yeah. I was like, I'd hope so.
Yes, let me smash the under.
Oh, boy. If I wasn't, then people should stop listening to me.
You know, that's interesting. While each of you guys go through your downside, I'm going to look at what Derrick Henry's line is for his yards in the game. So looking at downsides here, Troy, you have Derek Carr against New Orleans, the Dolphins running backs as a whole against Buffalo, Brandon Cooks against Baltimore, and Mike Gesicki against Buffalo. Ryan, you were 3-1 last week in your downside. You're including Miles Sanders as a win, even though he was injured.
I called him before he was hurt.
Yep. Carson Wentz against the Los Angeles Rams,
Oh.
Melvin Gordon in Pittsburgh, Devontae Parker against Buffalo, and TJ Hawkinson against the Green Bay Packers. Josh, you swept it 4-0 last week. Jared Goff in Philadelphia, Benny Snell against Denver, Terry McLaurin in Arizona, and Greg Olsen home against the Patriots. Myself, I was 0-3. I'm not including Kenny Golladay just because he got hurt. So here's some of the things I neglected to think. Kyler Murray using his legs. That was a big surprise to me. Also pissed off because he was at 100 yards, and then the two
Neil Banks.
I had 5 bonus points in one league, lost by 1.5 points. Thanks, Kyler. Dumbass stat. QB sneaks. Ugh, gross. But I have Deshaun Watson against Baltimore, Austin Eckler against Kansas City, A.J. Brown against Jacksonville, and Noah Fant in Pittsburgh. So starting again with Troy, talk about your Dolphins. Why don't you like Jordan Howard and Matt Breida against Buffalo?
I mean, we unfortunately saw what happened last week. Jordan Howard, he got 6 points total only because he scored a touchdown, and then Matt Breida, he was barely used. Like, I was so shocked about the usage. And again, I believe that Jordan Howard had a hammy thing, so they had Myles Gaskin getting most of the run. And Buffalo's defense is legit.
Yes.
We know that they're legit. And you know what's going to happen? The Dolphins are going to be behind. So Jordan Howard, like he's not going to be used. Matt Breida, if they were behind, I mean, they were behind last week. For some reason, they didn't want to use him. So, and I don't believe in Myles Gaskin. It's going to be a gross mixture of all three of them. So no, thank you. And also, again, Buffalo's defense is legit. I don't want any part of it. You should not start any of them. Please sit them for the love of God.
Do not forget that it is time for our Laird and Savior.
Yes.
No, do not. I swear. If anyone
Laird.
is even thinking about playing Patrick Laird, you might want to stop playing fantasy. Or you just have the biggest kahunas in the face of the planet. Do not do that.
Patrick Laird.
The Jets only managed 52 rushing yards last week, so stay away from that running game against Buffalo.
Moving over to Ryan here again, 3-1 last week. Talk about Melvin Gordon, because right now you're looking at it and saying that there's no Phillip Lindsay. They still have Royce Freeman there, but how confident are we? He steals carries. Are you just more worried about Pittsburgh's defense as a whole and less Melvin Gordon, or 100% the other way around?
What it is. Saquon Barkley, who greater than signed Melvin Gordon.
That was tough.
15 carries for 6 yards. Ben Roethlisberger had more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley did in that game.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's defense is... Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was going to say, I think in our Some Bullshit League, I believe I beat Tommy because he had Saquon Barkley and I had Daniel Jones and I beat him by like half a point or something like that. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to lose. Like, that's it for me. Saquon's going to outscore this guy. And it was. I was.
I'm pulling it up right
that
now,
happened.
Joe, to find that out.
I'm also trying to pull it up, and I still to this day don't know how to use Sleeper.
Now, one thing I will say is, Melvin Gordon looked very good last week, and Denver has a good defense. It's not as good as Pittsburgh's. Pittsburgh's defense is loaded literally from back to front. If the game's likely going to start out where they're going to try to feed Gordon, Pittsburgh's going to take that away. Now, the one saving grace for Melvin Gordon, and where I'm willing to maybe be wrong on this, is he was also the predominantly used in the passing game. I think you're going to continue to see that, and if they're behind, you may see it even more. Just because you don't know what's going on with Cortland Sutton yet. Jerry Jeudy looked good. Noah Fant looked good. But I think Gordon could be the third piece there if they're throwing a ton. But don't expect the rushing yards. It's just 15 carries, 6 yards for arguably the most talented running back in the NFL. Gordon ain't that. He needs the touchdowns, and I don't see the touchdowns happening.
Joe, you won by 0.56 points.
Yeah, wow. Daniel Jones, baby, pulling it out.
He's a roller coaster.
Tommy with the long ass ellipses in the chat.
Yeah, Tommy, eat it. Daniel Jones, baby. Let's go.
Oh, Tommy, what's up?
I mean, let's be honest. Daniel Jones on a 19-play drive throws an absolute prayer that gets knocked up by Bud Dupree, and 350-pound, 86-year-old Cam Hayward comes down with the interception.
Yeah.
First off,
Daniel Jones is a roller coaster.
He's the new Jameis Winston, man.
Yep.
Roller coaster.
But I mean, let's be honest here. Who doesn't love a big guy interception? I love it.
I
mean, did Cam Hayward probably jumped 2 inches in the air to go get that ball? He did not get very high, but I loved every second of that. Josh, to you, I feel like I want to keep highlighting the running backs because they're just so good to keep highlighting. But let's talk about the quarterback here, because it's Jared Goff playing against your Eagles. And, I mean, we saw Dwayne Haskins, the cold-blooded killer, absolutely destroy him with the Washington football team last week. My dad actually texted me and said, is Josh on life support because his team just lost to the Washington football team?
No, I just got blackout drunk.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I mean, real quick, did Haskins really destroy us?
Ripped you apart.
Yards in a
the fact that he did what he did, I would say that's him.
Actually,
I mean, he averaged 5.7 yards per attempt. Like,
Joe,
that's not good.
Let's be clear here. Joe has been calling this from week 1 that Carson Wentz is going to get hurt, It's going to be this game when Aaron Donald destroys him as a human being.
Absolutely kills him because
8 sacks.
He needs to call in sick.
15 QB hits last week. If he takes 15 against that defense, no bueno.
Starting a rookie at right tackle, dealing with a replacement at right guard when our left tackle from last year was doing playing right guard all throughout camp. Like it was a hot mess of whatever last week, and it sucked so bad. Yeah, I'm down on Wentz this week as well. It looks like we should get Lane Johnson back. It looks like we should get Miles Sanders back, but again, who knows? But with Jared Goff, their line actually looked good last week against the Dallas front four. Philly should get back Derek Barnett, their starting defensive end. They lost Vinny Curry. They should also get back Jason Hargrave. So that's, and again, you throw in Fletcher Cox in that mix. That's gonna test them. Goff, again, like he looked okay. It was kind of like picking spots here and there, but he wasn't like overwhelming. And Philly secondary didn't look terrible last week. Like for the most part, they held Terry McLaurin in check.
Yeah.
He only had 2 catches against Darius Slay for 28 yards. Avonte Maddox is the weak link, the opposite Darius Slay. So Van Jefferson, you could see a big breakout from him this week. I'm just throwing that out there on our show. Because if Slay's covering Woods, LeBlanc covering Kupp in the slot, they're going to have to pick their spots. Maybe this is a week that you see Tyler Higbee have a good week because Nigel Bradham's not there. But again, it's just with Goff, I don't know that you're going to see that 3 touchdown game. And because he doesn't offer anything with his legs, you need those 3 touchdown, 300-yard games. And right now, I just don't see that.
Quickly before we get to Stepmom Lauren's question that I just saw her type in here. Again, I was 0-3 last week. No problem admitting it. Chris Carson didn't fumble like I predicted, so I was really mad about that. But looking at some of my guys here, I'll go with Deshaun Watson. I mean, the rushing upside is there. You talk about with Goff, he doesn't have legs. Deshaun Watson has legs. We all know that. He can run if he wants to. But damn, that Baltimore defense is so good. Yep. And they're just so good. He doesn't have weapons. He really doesn't have a weapon to throw to. Will Fuller runs straight. Marlon Humphrey can do that. Like, Marlon Humphrey is better than anything the Chiefs threw at Will Fuller last week.
Oh, yeah.
Brandon Cooks also runs straight. Marcus Peters can also run straight. I mean, it's very simple. Everyone on the Texans offense just runs straight. So at that point, I mean, your highest upside are guys out of the backfield. David Johnson may see a lot of catches this week. I don't think he's an upside by any means, just because of how good that Baltimore defense is. But he could see a lot of dump down targets. And then Jordan Akins, I've started him in a couple of DFS lineups this week.
I would go with him. I think he's a sleeper.
He's the biggest guy on the field, and he looked really good in week 1. Like that catch he dipped under, and I believe it was either a first down or a touchdown where he dipped under the linebacker right there on that week 1 play. I think Jordan Akins is a great pick, but I'm not too high on Deshaun Watson this week.
Baltimore allowed the 3rd fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks last year, so I think even Watson's floor as a runner is limited as well.
Very limited. And Troy, we know you need to go in a few minutes, but we want to get one last thing here before we switch over to Stream of the Week, because Stepmom Lauren needs our help, guys. Lauren is in trouble. She needs our help. I mean, can you imagine? We've made it to a point where we get to help Stepmom Lauren, and I feel very honored by that. So, my favorite thing, would you rather, right? Starting wide receivers, Thomas and Golladay. Let's play this like both Michael Thomas and Kenny Golladay sit this week. Let's just play it like that. Let's also play Chris Godwin sits this week because he's in concussion protocol. She's looking at Cortland Sutton, who's also coming off an injury if he plays.
I saw he got a limited practice today.
Yeah, I think Cortland Sutton will be fine. He was almost going to play in the Monday night game. He should be good to go this week. So it's looking at
It's still Sutton. Not a good matchup, though.
Still not a good matchup. No, it is not. Juju Smith-Schuster, Cortland Sutton, or Deontay Johnson. Start 2, guys, and we'll start with Troy.
I mean, two of them are playing on the same team. So it's like
Okay.
I have a
So
lot of options.
she also has Anthony Miller and Scotty Miller. So we'll throw those in there.
Slotty
Well,
Miller. Give me all
I'll
the
say-
Slotty Miller.
Look, I mean, if Godwin is out, it's not that crazy of a play. It's not that
exactly.
crazy. So I'm saying, like, out of that, if Godwin's out, give me Scotty and give me Juju. I don't like playing two receivers from the same team, so give me Scotty and Juju.
Well, Deontay's hurt right now too. He just popped up on an injury report. Juju's actually my wide receiver 1 this week. I think he feasts. So definitely starting Juju, and I think probably Scotty Miller if Godwin's out.
Josh?
I mean, Juju and Deontay, they missed practice today on a Wednesday, but I don't get too caught up about missing practice on a Wednesday. If they miss Thursday, that's the issue. Wednesdays are typically your veteran rest days.
It's
unless
Wednesday.
you pop up with a, entering concussion protocol like Godwin. So.
Josh, to add on to that, it's Wednesday and they played Monday night too.
Yeah.
So it's they've only had one rest day technically, so this would be Juju's second.
So I'm not overly freaking out about that. I love the fact that Deontay led the team in targets. Obviously, Juju being more the guy they look at in the end zone, even though the one target for Deontay went out of the back of the end zone. I would probably lean Juju. I like Scott Miller this week, regardless if Godwin plays or not, honestly. And I do like Anthony Miller this week, too. I think he's got a pretty good matchup. So you definitely have some options. I think I would stay away from Sutton. I'm not. I know, Lauren, I know you're a big fan of Drew Lock. Just not buying it yet. Daniel Jones. Jones can sling it the way that Lock can't yet as far as reading an NFL defense. But I think I would lean Juju and Scotty Miller.
Lauren, you know how much I love my short white slot receivers because that's all I've seen in New England for the past
Brady
15 years.
Yeah.
So I love Scotty Miller this week, especially if Godwin's out. I also love Anthony Miller's matchup, but I think Allen Robinson has like 150 yards and 10 catches because the contract disputes. Ryan, I think you put out a tweet or something that he's going to absolutely eat this week.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease, baby.
Yeah, Allen Robinson should absolutely eat this week. I think Anthony Miller will get his as well, but Scotty and Juju Smith-Schuster. Corey Davis smoked the Broncos secondary. So, yeah, give me Juju in that instance along with Scotty Miller. All right. Troy, do we have to let you go, or can we keep you for Ryan's Stream of the Week real quick?
I can stay up for the Stream of the Week.
Heck yeah, I love that. All right, Ryan, quarterback, who you got?
Jimmy Garoppolo. I just was thumbing through Josh's notes, and his first note about it is the Jets suck. So,
I mean, yeah.
Do we really need more than that? They gave up the third most QB points to Josh Allen last week. Obviously, Jimmy G doesn't have the rushing ability that Allen does, but he probably doesn't have the fumble ability that Allen does either. What Jimmy G does have is running backs out of the backfield who are going to be able to score. Mostert did it in week 1. We know McKinnon has that ability. And Coleman, a reader actually helped me out. I didn't realize Coleman sat out last year because of the sickle cell trait, or last week. So he only ended up playing 6 snaps last week because of how poor the air quality is. This game is in New York, so you're going to see Coleman probably more involved. The over-under on this game is 42 points. I'm calling it right now, 42-0, San Francisco. Garoppolo is available in 49% on Yahoo and 60% on ESPN.
So if you're betting, bet the team over for the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow.
I mean,
I will say my biggest worry here is they potentially don't have Kittle. Their wide receiver core is just absolutely demolished.
Mohamed Sanu.
Right? Yeah, you might see a lot of Mohamed Sanu. This
And he
week
knows
on
the offense
street,
from the days in Atlanta. So
yeah,
gross.
He might need a refresher course though. But the 2 best games of Garoppolo's 2019 season came against Arizona, and he couldn't do that this week or last week, excuse me. So that does a little worry me when it comes to streaming him this week, but I don't see why he couldn't throw up 275 and 2 touchdowns.
there you go.
I want Jake over on YouTube to join us more often because he just said he's laughing. He's self-loathing Jets fan. I love it. I absolutely love it. From one guy who's a Patriots fan and Troy who's a Dolphins fan. I mean, we love the AFC East, and I mean, wow. Jets are no bueno this year, and for the foreseeable future.
Better things ahead when they finally fire Adam Gase, which I don't know when that's going to happen.
Things are better when you fire.
Can we talk about Mike Greenberg's comment that we've been talking about for the last 3 years of this podcast, saying he wouldn't let Adam Gase coach his nephew's youth football team?
Yeah.
Same, dude.
What dirt does Adam Gase have on that family?
I mean, it's got to be something.
Look, the Dolphins made that mistake. Look, he's been riding the coattails of Peyton Manning, the offensive coordinator in Broncos, for far too long. Look, he did take the Dolphins to the Super Bowl that one year, so I got to give him credit. Ryan Tannehill looked good that year. But besides that, he's been awful. Awful.
Yep, absolutely awful. All right, your tight end, Jonnu Smith.
How in the world is Jonnu Smith available in 58% of Yahoo leagues and 26% on ESPN? I understand the Corey Davis hype, 8 targets, 7 catches, 101 yards. Smith scored before Davis or A.J. Brown. Smith was targeted 7 times. He only caught 4 balls for 36 yards in that touchdown. It's not impressive.
Screen pass, though.
And that's what I'm saying. They were lining him up in the backfield. The thing is, while it's not a super impressive stat line, it doesn't have to be for fantasy tight end right now. That was still the tight end 8 for the week last week. Denver is better than what Jacksonville is. We already talked about this. Jacksonville gave up 5 receptions for 69 yards to the Indianapolis tight ends last week. That you can pretty much put Jonnu in for that right now. 569 and probably a touchdown. He's going to be a top 10 play again in week 2.
Right. I got a quick question. I got to start sit decision, right?
Yeah.
So Hayden Hurst, Goddard, Jonnu. Order them for this week.
Can you start all 3?
Yeah.
I know.
Those are good matchups.
Yeah.
I think Jonnu, just because I think he gets the most volume. Maybe Goddard gets more, but
so interestingly, I saw the stat. Hayden Hurst ran the most routes of any tight end last week. Yeah. He just kind of got froze out in favor of Calvin Ridley. If you see that get flipped, that could be a big thing there.
That's the problem, though. I don't know that we really know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's why I wouldn't gamble on him this week either. I'm worried for Carson Wentz's life. He's going to try to get rid of the ball quickly. So Goddard could see a lot of volume too, but I think Jonnu's the bigger lock to come away with volume and probably a touchdown.
I think Jonnu's the safest bet.
Yeah.
I think Russell Gage showed up questionable, I believe, on the injury report. So if Russell Gage doesn't play, Gage had over 100 yards.
12 targets.
Yeah, that's a lot of targets that are going to go right to Hayden Hurst. So I would monitor that, but I think the floor in the better lock is Smith, and the higher upside is Hayden Hurst. Because if the Cowboys looked like they did on defense last week, Atlanta's putting up 40 on them. So that should be a high scoring game. Hopefully, I thought the Rams Cowboys was going to be a high scoring game too, and then Mike McCarthy just forgot how to coach.
Yeah.
Ugh, made me mad. And I'll throw out a start sit question myself here, because I'd like to get Troy in on this too. Yeah. So it feels weird saying this, but Josh Jacobs, Raheem Mostert, or Paris Campbell. Guys, Josh Jacobs is playing the Saints.
But he's still gonna get volume. But out of those, I'm going Josh Jacobs. But I'm not sitting Josh Jacobs
ever.
Wait. It's Campbell and who else?
And Raheem Mostert against the Jets.
Raheem Mostert.
That's why
you're not benching Josh Jacobs.
I'm not benching Jacobs, but I understand the argument between Paris Campbell. I like him, but we ain't talking about him. Yeah. So Mostert or Jacobs, I'm not sitting Jacobs. I'm sorry. That's like he's in that tier where it's like if he's on your team, you're playing him.
If you're stressing this much, just put Mostert and or Campbell in a DFS lineup. That's how you solve that problem.
Yeah.
I did put both of them in a DFS.
There you go.
But I have Dalvin Cook and Naheem Hines already in there, and then CeeDee Lamb and Robert Woods. So Josh Jacobs is like a throw-in at that point. Okay, and then what's your name? Ryan. Hello. Ryan does the stream of the week. Cardinals defense, interesting pick.
Yeah, big availability here. 78% on both Yahoo and ESPN leagues. They more than held their own last week against San Francisco. They finished as the defense 13. I think everyone can agree the 49ers are better than Washington. Washington didn't look bad, but part of that was their defense just killing Carson Wentz all day. But Philly was still the defense 19 in that ugly game. So the long and short of it is, it was a perfect storm for Washington's offense last week, and it's not going to be that traveling across the country to Arizona this week. The Cardinals had 3 sacks, hit the QB 5 total times, but no takeaways. I think Dwayne Haskins is going to fix that no takeaways. The over-under is 45 points, but again, it's something where I think Arizona is going to do most of the heavy lifting, so you can go ahead and start Arizona. I'm starting Arizona. I think they're my defense 5 this week. They're going to have a really good week.
I got him, so I'm excited to play.
There you go.
Love it. Awesome. And Troy, we will let you go here because the next thing is kickers, and I know I'm the only one here, along with Linda, who you'll be will be on the show right in just about an hour from now, correct?
Yep, 9 o'clock. Fantasy Football Confidential will be streaming Periscope, YouTube. Check us out. This is a good nightcap to Club Fantasy. So
I watched it. I watched it after we got off air last week. It was fantastic, Troy. I was very impressed.
And Linda's actually going to be on with us in 2 weeks.
There you go.
Oh, I know. She told me she's really excited about it.
I love that. All right, Troy, thank you so much for joining us, buddy. One more time, where can everyone find you and everything you do?
Of course, you can find me at the Below T King Mode. I'm a writer for Dynasty Happy Hour, as well as one of the co-hosts of Fantasy Football Confidential. It's me, John Bauer, and Mitch Sorensen, the dudes from Dynasty Theory, and the one and only Linda G. She's at Lindelians on Twitter. You probably already know her. So check us out. We stream at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on, again, Periscope, YouTube. Check us out, man, every single Wednesday. So appreciate it. And guys, thank you so much for having me. We'll definitely be talking. I had a blast. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Troy. Thank you.
Have a good
night. Of course,
y'all.
Everyone have a good night.
You
You too. Have a good show.
Make sure after we finish up here in about an hour, go tune in to their show, like you said, Periscope and YouTube. All right, my
real
kicker
quick
of the
though,
week.
real quick. I want to give a shout out to Jake Trowbridge from Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football, giving us a plug on Twitter. Their show started about 7 minutes ago, so when we wrap up, go check out his show over on YouTube as well.
Heck yeah, check that out. All right, my kicker of the week. Everyone's been waiting for it. I know. Zane Gonzalez. Indoors, home, should see a lot of action against the Redskins. Not the Redskins. I didn't say
football
that.
Team.
The football team. It's just so strange.
I'm doing better with that one, but I'm not doing great with ownership versus roster. That's the one I'm trying to work on right now. So.
Okay. Or the other guy I like is Austin Seibert, who revenge game, baby.
Revenge game kicker.
Revenge game. Tomorrow night, the Browns dropped him. Cleveland picked him up because Randy Bullock is most likely not playing. So that's why I like Seibert. Blurred lines. Speaking of Randy Bullock, that jag. Listen, we didn't lose in week 1, but we pushed. All right, we pushed. In betting, a push is way better than a loss, right? Yep. Get your money back. You didn't win, but you didn't lose. That's what counts. Mine this week, it'll drop Saturday, midday, right after our start-sit show. I like Seattle to cover -3.5 against the Patriots at home. I was shocked when I saw the general consensus was New England to cover.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's no fans in Seattle, but that Russell Wilson looked really good. Like, he looked scary good. And I already talked about it. I don't like Patriots linebackers covering running backs out of the backfield. And if they get Chris Carson in the mix, he's going to be great. I don't know who Stephon Gilmore is going to be matched up on. J.C. Jackson will get the opposite guy. My guess is Gilmore will play bump and run with DK, so he may be taken out of the equation a little bit. But they still have Philip Dorsett. They have David Moore. Greg Olsen will still be in the mix as well. The Patriots secondary is still great, but I think Russell Wilson will be able to overcome it. I think they win by at least 4 points. I'm not going to say Seattle's blowing them out, but they win by at least 4 points.
I wanted to bring this up when Troy was talking. One thing, because we mentioned, is Cam going to start throwing the ball more? I feel like the linebackers in Seattle can neutralize that running ability a little bit. So I'm really interested if this week, if he's forced to throw the ball more and how that actually turns out for them. Because you have Jamal Adams who can come up and lay the wood on him. You obviously have KJ Wright. You have
Bobby Wagner.
I'm just trying to remember the best linebacker in football, Bobby Wagner.
He was relatively quiet last week.
Yeah, I started him in an IDP league and was really not happy about that. So.
I had him in my line. I sat Levante David, and Levante David had a great week last week. But yeah, Bobby Wagner was a little quiet to start. That should be an easy bounce back this week. Yep. Easy. Yeah. All right, that's everything. We are getting so much better on time. It is so strange. I don't like it.
We'll go off on a tangent at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 up, 3 down, always fun. Absolutely love doing that. Always gives me a chance to just rag on, Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy is going to be the Blake Bortles, Jared Goff of 2020, because man, that Cowboys team just did not look good at all. Josh is not paying attention at all. He is responding to comments right now.
He is killing the chat right now, though.
Yeah.
Good job, Josh.
I know Josh is not
trying to help
attention.
the fans out, guys.
Yep. Yes, we appreciate it. I want Jake to join every week. I want the self-deprecating Jets fan on our show every single week.
Yeah, he was good.
Yes, he was amazing. Also, again, if you didn't know, Start Sit Different Day. We do it Saturday mornings. New show 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Planet Earth is where you can find us. It's only on Periscope and Facebook, correct? I'm not wrong about that. So Facebook Live and Periscope as well. Check those out right there. It's all hosted by the lovely Faith Enos, FF_Leap of Faith. Is she joining us this week or no?
Nope, you're hosting this week.
Yeah, right. Joe is hosting this week.
The lovely Joe Zolo.
Yes, everyone come join. You get to hear my voice once more. I assume Faith is working. She works at the election office, so she can't be with us all the time. But most weeks, Faith will be joining us as our lovely host. All right, ladies and gents, anything else before we wrap up here to kick off week 2?
With Start Sit Different Day, it's all about your questions. I'll put out a tweet Friday morning. Just respond there. We'll probably answer you on the tweet, but we'll also get you onto the show so you can hear everybody's opinion. So make sure you get your questions in. We got a ton of interaction last week. The more interaction we get, the better the show is, the better for everybody. So,
of course, yes. And for Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weiss and myself, this has been No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Josh is at the One Hudsonian. Ryan is at the Fantasy 5 spelled out. Myself, I am Joe_Zolo. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. Next week, we have Robert Wilson at the FF Gator, a writer with the Fantasy Footballers, joining us for our Week 3 preview. We will see you next week.